Well, Broncos country, does it get any worse than this? What we all had anticipated was a huge possibility in the Chiefs going back had a chance to get three Super Bowl victories in a row. They have done it. They have beat the Buffalo Bills. And you know what, man? We should have known. We should have known better that in the second round when the Chiefs were going to be playing the the Ravens, they were playing each other. That was going to eliminate one of them right off of the bat, and then it basically gave a little bit more of a cupcake schedule for the Chiefs in a sense of like they play the Texans and that they know, and then all they got to do is just go through one of the two between Baltimore and Buffalo. Now, don't get it twisted. I think if they played Baltimore in the first round, I think if they played Buffalo in the second round, or vice versa, I think the Chiefs win because unfortunately, that's just what this team does. They figure out ways to not make mistakes, to not do dumb shit, and put themselves in bad positions. And anytime they're afforded an opportunity, whether the other team provides that for them or the referees or whatever you guys want to call it, to their credit, they take advantage of every single situation. And that's exactly what makes the Kansas City Chiefs so damn good with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes running the team. You just got to, at some point, give credit where credit is due. It's very frustrating, but it kind of is what it is at this point. And, as a Bronco fan, we're not going to sit there and make excuses or say, oh, had we beaten Buffalo, we played the Chiefs, who would have beat them, blah, blah, blah. None of that is necessarily true or really matters. But what we can take from it as Bronco fans and as a Broncos organization, I think is very interesting. But regardless, I'm rooting for the Eagles. I'm rooting big time for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. But it's probably, I think, outside of the Philadelphia area and outside of the Kansas City area, this is just the worst possible matchup that we probably could have gotten with the remaining teams. In all honesty, it's a rematch from a couple years ago, it was a great Super Bowl. Don't get it twisted. And it's just one of those situations where, we just don't want to see these two teams. I think that the Eagles in many ways are unlikable, even though I like the Eagles. I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan. I think A.J. Brown's dope. Saquon Barkley there has been amazing. There's been a lot of really intriguing stuff with the Eagles. But they don't really move the needle for me, I think in a lot of different ways. And another part of it is I just don't think that they're a really good matchup for the Chiefs, especially this year. I think the Chiefs have if I'm going to guess it right now, and if I had to bet on it, which I'd never really bet on the Super Bowl in general, I would bet that the Chiefs probably end up winning this game handily by 10 plus points. And it's not because the Eagles are a worse team. It's because I don't really trust Philadelphia and Coach Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and defensive coordinator Vic Fangio to outcoach and outplay Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. I just don't see a situation where it happens. But that being said, from a personnel standpoint, the Eagles are a very good matchup against the Chiefs because I think they can out-physical them. I think that if it becomes a shootout, they're capable of keeping up with them if needed. But it's the Super Bowl. I don't know. I want to know you guys' thoughts. The Super Bowl doesn't make me happy at all. And in fact, it pisses me off so much. I was so irritated watching because I would have liked to see the Bills and the Eagles in the Super Bowl. That would have been a little bit more entertaining. What I really wanted to see was the Commanders and the Bills. But of course, the NFL got their wish. They got what they wanted. The Super Bowl with the Chiefs, with all the Swifties, with everybody, watching it for the ratings. And the ratings are going to be through the roof. And, it's going to be whatever it is. But it's a frustrating journey for the Bills, man. It breaks my heart for that franchise, especially for Josh Allen, somebody that I think is so damn worthy of winning the Super Bowl, man, or at least getting there. He's such a good player. He wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's constantly held back from Sean McDermott and a lot of turnover on the roster and just a lot of things that I think go into them not being able to take it to the next level. And today was another example of that. I don't know what Sean McDermott does before he plays the Chiefs. If he just forgets how to coach and forgets how to play football. But it's kind of a common theme, I think, with a lot of different teams that end up playing the Chiefs. And it was very similar in the Tom Brady New England Patriot days. It seems like coaches and teams would overthink, basic situations so much to where they almost just, they kind of go against what their identity's been all year. And it just seems to happen again this year. I mean, this week, and in a lot of different ways. I mean, the play calls were bad too. Joe Brady, I don't think was really that special in terms of, what he was calling. I mean, he got bailed out a couple of different times. One of the things that really stands out to me is, 3rd and goal from the goal line. The Chiefs call a timeout. You're all pumped up about this play, and you throw a wide receiver fade to Keon Coleman. Now, nobody's going to remember it because they ended up scoring a touchdown on the next play to Curtis Samuel to ultimately tie the game up. But it's like, what is that? Why are they doing it? And then why is it that James Cook he's killing it? He's been your best running back by far all season, all postseason. He's having such a good postseason run. He's having a really good game against the Chiefs at times, out of the backfield and as a runner. And then you just take him off the field for what felt like the entire fourth quarter. And he wasn't in there at all. And they're running the ball with Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, and it's a very, very weird thing. But kudos to the Chiefs again, man. It's just frustrating because as NFL fans, not just as a Bronco fan, as an NFL fan, I'm sick of seeing the same damn team in the Super Bowl every year. But I get it. If you're a Chiefs fan, you love it, man. And it feels like it's the NFL against you. And they're probably gonna end up being underdogs somehow, some way in this game. And a lot of the money's gonna be bet on the Eagles. And the Chiefs are probably going to end up winning and three-peating. And I don't know what the hell that means after. There's only a hope that we could have as NFL fans or as Bronco fans is that, they three-peat and, maybe Andy Reid retires and Travis Kelce retires. And then they kind of have a little bit of I want to call it a rebuild by any means, but they go into a little bit of a slump, right? And that happened a lot in the Tom Brady era too, right? When Tom Brady started off his career, they won 3 or 4 Super Bowls, and then he didn't end up going to a Super Bowl again after that for, I think it was like 7 or 8 years by the time they ended up getting back. So you never know. Those kinds of things can happen. But yeah, frustrating overall. As NFL fans, I think the Eagles on the NFC side, they've really been probably the most dominant and consistent team aside from the Lions, obviously, in the NFC. But they've been low-key really good because they have a hell of a defensive line. I mean, their defensive line is ridiculous. They're a tough team to run the ball against. You can get some yards on them in the air, but that pass rush will really get cooking on you. And then Jalen Hurts in that offense, they don't really turn the ball over a lot. They run it down your throat with Saquon. He's been a hell of an addition there for him. So it's going to end up being a really good game. And I do feel like the Eagles are the more talented team, the more complete team. But how are they going to react and how are they going to play in those situations where, when it comes down to making the plays, making the right decisions at the right time and avoiding the turnovers? How are they going to be able to overcome those? Same exact thing happened in the first Super Bowl they played, right? Eagles came out looking dominant. They were playing great. I think they went up to a 14-0 lead, and the Chiefs ended up scoring, and they were driving, and then boom. Not only does Jalen Hurts make the mistake of fumbling, it's a fumble 6, turns into 6 points, completely different ball game, and then obviously I wouldn't say a terrible holding call at the end of the game because it was a hold, but it's one of those holds where you can't call that at the end of the game. They end up getting bailed out, but the Chiefs got bailed out, but also the Eagles made the wrong play, period. It is what it was. They made the bad play. All you had to do was not hold, and they kick a field goal with a minute 48 left. You're going to give yourself a chance to win. It's always those little tiny things that are that the Chiefs do right and other teams don't. I really think that the only hope the Eagles have to win this game is to just absolutely pounce on them and dominate them and get after Patrick Mahomes and just put their foot on their neck. Very similar to how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did in Mahomes' first Super Bowl. Just suffocating type of defense. But I don't know if I see that happening. And, Vic Fangio, for as good of a coordinator as he is at times, I don't really know how he is in big games. I don't know if I trust him against Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes is, in the past, he's always dominated the Vic Fangio schemes. So we'll see. We'll see, man. It's going to be it's a frustrating day overall for Bronco fans. I think this was the last possible outcome that I wanted, but I felt like it was definitely the most likely outcome. And we got it. So it is what it is at this point. And the Bills, aside from the Bills just always shitting the bed, and it's crazy. I saw this stat from what's his name, Adam Schefter. Let me go ahead and share it with you guys. This blew my mind. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it if you follow him on Twitter, obviously, or X or whatever the hell you want to call it. But it said, this is wild stuff, man. Let's go ahead over here. It says, in 9 composite matchups between the Chiefs and the Bills, Patrick Mahomes' team has now outscored Josh Allen's 245 to 240. So it's like and it is true, like every single time these teams play, it is such a close game, and it always comes down to the Chiefs making 1 or 2 more plays or 1 or 2 less mistakes and capitalizing on the situation that they have. And so if you're a Bills fan, and I'd love to hear from Bills fans. I have one of my really good friends is a Bills fan, and when he's, off of his depression in about a month, we'll talk about it. But it's one of those things where it's like, you could make the emotional move, or you could just sit there and say, Sean McDermott's not the coach for this team. And I personally don't think that he is. But it's like, but who are you going to replace him with, right? Because a lot of people, they always look back and they say, okay, well, Tony Dungy was fired by the Buccaneers and they hired John Gruden and they won it as a result. John Fox was fired as the Broncos coach. They hired Gary Kubiak and they win it in the first season as a result the next year. It's a very different situation because there's not a clear-cut candidate of like a coach that would make sense to say, this coach, we can bring him in and he can take us to the promised land. I'll give you an example. Like if Bill Belichick, if the Bills owners called Bill Belichick and was able to get him to leave college and say, hey, we want you if you were willing to come coach us next year. Okay, maybe you can have that conversation. But if you're just going to, fire McDermott and like promote Joe Brady, I mean, it's all you're doing is killing the continuity, but you're not necessarily making a move that you confidently can be like, this is going to take us to the next level. So, there's a lot of that happens too. But they also got to look internally within themselves, man, because as crazy as this might sound, the Bills always make trades with the Chiefs in the draft. Always. Like the Chiefs want to move up. They just call the Bills. Bills are like, sure. Like there's got to come a point where you're just like, you know what? Yes, it is in our best interest maybe in this particular situation for us to trade back, but we're not going to do it with the team that we are consistently trying to get to the Super Bowl against, or, playing against us. That's holding us back every single year from being able to play in the Super Bowl. They did it a few years back in 2017. They were the biggest reason why the Chiefs were able to move up from 28 down to 10 to be able to draft Patrick Mahomes. They did it last year where they, moved up to get Xavier Worthy, and they ended up passing on it. Like there's got to come a time where you be strategic in terms of the off-season decisions that you make too. Don't allow for, these teams to be able to make moves or be able to get the guys that they want. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just pissed and still emotional about it, but you gotta be able to put your foot down on that. And it's frustrating for the Bills too, because I think that they really built this team this year to be better suited to beat the Chiefs in a sense of they really focused on the run game. They didn't put all this pressure and all didn't have to go through Josh Allen, but then they get into the situation and what do they find themselves doing? They find themselves stop running the ball, and putting it all on the shoulders of Josh Allen. And really, they were playing by fire the whole game. I mean, how many different fourth downs do they have to go for to be able to keep drives going? Or they scored 2 touchdowns on 2 different fourth downs. They were just, playing by fire way too much. And, what the Chiefs do the best to teams is they just wear you down mentally and physically, right? But it's not always that they physically wear you down. It's not always that. But they have these drives where it's like, if it's 3rd and 4, they'll get 5. If it's, 2nd and 15, they'll get 13. They'll put themselves in a 3rd and 2, and they'll end up getting 3 yards. Like they really have these drives that are just long, time consuming. And it really helps them. And not only just the time of possession, but it's almost like kills the morale and starts to put a lot of doubt in the other teams. And it's just a consistent thing. And, when you're going through the play-by-play, let's go ahead and I'll pull up some of the play-by-plays here. Their first touchdown play, a drive was, 9 plays, 90 yards, 5 minutes off the clock. And then they ended up fumbling, but they were having a crazy good 6-play, 40-yard drive. They were milking the clock on that second one before they ended up fumbling and giving the Bills a whole bunch of life on that one. And then the Bills score, and then they get an 11-play, 70-yard drive, touchdown. And then the next play, 6 plays, 34 yards, touchdown, minute 44 off the clock. And then it was halftime. And then they come out of half, they end up getting a punt. But every single drive, it seems like it's elongated. It's 6+ plays. It's taken 3 to 7 minutes off every single drive, whether the ones that they're scoring or not. And those are just the types of things that are backbreakers for teams, man. And they end up always putting it always seems like they have the ball in their hands at the end of the games to be able to give themselves an opportunity to win it. It just always seems like that's how the game works out for them. So it's frustrating, man. Kudos to them. Kudos to the Chiefs. It bothers me because now we're gonna have to deal with Chiefs fans on Twitter and probably here in the comments and blah, blah, blah. And I get it, man. If my team went to 3 straight Super Bowls and we had a chance to three-peat, I'd probably be doing the same damn thing. But the NFL, I do think the NFL has a fascination with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that they really did want for the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl again because the ratings are always the best when the Chiefs are playing. They're going to be bringing a lot more viewers from like the Taylor Swift fans, and it's crazy what the data and all that shows. That being said, do I think that it's rigged? I mean, no. But the fact that it's really becoming a debate in NFL circles now, I think is extremely concerning. I think it's so hard to rig the game in general, but you can certainly afford really good teams more opportunities to make plays, and then naturally what's going to happen is it's going to give them a higher chance to win. So maybe that can happen, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I just feel like, yes, the NFL is an entertainment business, but sometimes they're not even like they don't even try to like cover up or play off the fact that they have this obsession with the Chiefs. Like it's just so obvious. It's in our face, and it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating, and the fact that the integrity of the game is even being questioned, and now I'd say more than ever is hugely concerning for the NFL. Hugely. I think that the refs did a really good job tonight, for the most part. I get the whole 4th down call. That was a back and forth. I get it. I really do. I think that I looked at it. I didn't think he got it. Other angles showed that he potentially could have gotten it. It was really, really close. I get it. Like I said, I don't think that it just sucks that it had to come down to that. But I think that today's game was officiated very fairly. And it really just boiled down to whenever the Chiefs had the opportunity to make plays, they did it. Anytime that the Bills had an opportunity to make it a 2-score game or really put their foot on the gas a little bit, they weren't able to. And then boom, the Chiefs come back, they would tie it, and then end up ultimately taking the lead. So it was huge. Raul Havana says, "What is the line on the mayor of Philly not being able to spell Eagles?" Oh, that's a good question. I wish that's something you can bet on. That would be that'd be pretty damn funny. But yeah, Philly's not known to have the smartest people in the world, and they're definitely not known to have the friendliest people. Even though they're the city of brotherly love, they're some of the meanest people ever, man. You see some of the things that those fans do to other fan base, fans that are at their games. It's it's ridiculous. It really is. But it's one of those things where karma never comes back and bites them, right? I mean, they end up having a successful season. They go. The Bills fans are always like the most gracious fans. They donated a bunch of money to Mark Andrews' charity after last week to try to like make them feel better and like all this kind of thing on the GoFundMe, and then they end up getting screwed. So, maybe doing the right thing as a fan isn't always going to help anybody. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just wanted to kind of get on. I wasn't planning on making a live today by any means. I was going to make a video separately about the Broncos and the front office, some of the front office shakeup. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit, and then we'll have a video talking about some replacements. For anyone that cares. Usually I have Bronco fans that are watching the channel. But yeah, so the Broncos again, and I guess somewhat of a surprise move. There was a report earlier today that the Broncos tight end coach Declan Doyle was going to interview for the Bears offensive coordinator position. I thought it was cool news. Declan Doyle, I don't even know how you say it, but he's an up and coming coach, man. He's 28 years old. I remember when we hired him, he was like 26. He was a young coach. And I love it when I hear the stories of like, man, we're getting really young coaches to be able to develop. And it's crazy how quickly he was able to get an offensive coordinator job, very highly regarded in the building in terms of the type of coach and future that he has. And obviously that was felt around league circles because he got that job really quickly. Now, he's probably not going to be calling plays in Chicago, but he's going to be a 28-year-old offensive coordinator. Super interesting there. So good for him. A lot of people are like, well, the Broncos tight end sucked, so who cares if we lost them? We can replace them with somebody else. It doesn't always work that way. It's not like we had the most talented tight end group and they were underperforming. In fact, I think if you look at like the tight ends that we had, their production was like fine, especially because they really weren't thrown to a lot. So there's a lot that goes into that, but good for him. I'm curious about some different candidates that we might have to be able to replace him. There's not really any reports. This might be something that we take a little bit of time on as other teams kind of fill out the rosters. And there's probably going to be a few other executives and, low level coaches that are going to get poached as well. Mike Klis talked about it with all the different ties, like with Muji now as the GM for the Jets. Clint Kubiak's got a lot of ties here. Spytek's got some ties here as well. So there might be some other coaches from Denver that's leaving. It really sucks because you're starting to build some really good things and you felt like you got a really good staff. But it's also kudos to the success that the Broncos were able to have just in this past year of being able to turn things around. So in a way, it's a big compliment, but it's very frustrating. I think that there's a lot of really interesting names to be able to look into in terms of potential replacements. Nothing's come out from like any of the Broncos insiders or anything that I've seen, obviously, but I just kind of did my own homework, just some random people. I'll make a full video on it, but one of them has ties to New Orleans. He actually has ties to the Broncos as well. But that's Dan Ruchar. He's the O-line coach now at Tulane, but he worked with Peyton in New Orleans, the run game coordinator and the tight ends coach for many, many years. So he's very, very experienced. So he's somebody. And then I looked at a few different, assistant coaches on current teams and a couple of different NCAA guys as well. So yeah, that's something that we're going to be making a separate video for. Another coach, I guess Chris Banjo's been getting our assistant special teams coach. He's been getting some interest from other teams to be able to be their special teams coordinator. It's going to be interesting what we do there because I think we are definitely waiting on Darren Rizzi to become available. Well, he is available, but for clarity on his future as a coach, because he's still in the running for the New Orleans Saints position. So I think once the Saints position gets filled, if it's not Darren Rizzi, I expect the Broncos to move very quickly to be able to hire him and bring him over. And he's one of the most well-respected special teams coordinators in the league. So I'll be all for that. And then, like I said, there might be a couple others. So there's going to be a little bit of a coaching staff shakeup. The good news is that we're having continuity on the offensive side of the ball in terms of the play caller and the offensive coordinator. Continuity, obviously, with Vance Joseph and the defensive staff. So that's all you can really ask for. I think that's a really big that's super important to have as well. But anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I just wanted to come on and give my thoughts a little bit about this Super Bowl matchup because I'm just not intrigued in any way. It's going to be one of those Super Bowls where I'm just going to hope my Squares win one of them, and I'm going to have a few glasses of tequila, get a little drunk, and pass out. That's how I feel it going. And I'm going to pray as hard as I can and root as hard as I can for the Eagles, which just sounds yucky to me, but I'm going to root for the Eagles because the last thing that on earth that I ever want is to see the Chiefs win 3 Super Bowls in a row, being the only team in NFL history to be able to do that. And then we have to hear about it for God knows how long. And then you have to start talking about, can they do it a 4th time? Yeah, we just need to avoid that at all costs. So Philly, we all riding with you guys this weekend, man. So let's get it. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your evening, man. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Go Broncos. Go Philly for the Super Bowl. F the Chiefs. And spend time with those you love most, man. Until next time, peace out.